What do you do when you just want to order pizza, but the pizza chain is giving you a really hard time? We'll get to that in a bit, but first, nurse required to work sick. Just thought of this one. I'm an RN, don't work in hospital anymore because of things like this, but I used to. This was a few years ago pre-COVID, but it's no better now. Hospital policy is if you had 3 incidents of call-offs in a 12-month period, you'd get a counseling, be written up. So one time I was sick, took a day off, planned to be off the next day, but they whined about how short they were, begged me to come in, so I gave in and went miserable. That made me worse, so I called off again the 3rd day. What I didn't realize is that caused 2 instances. If I'd stayed off and had not come and helped the middle day, it would have still have been counted as 1. I was called in by the director and informed if I called out again, I would be written up. I was still technically on probation, so I didn't want that. A month or 2 later, the whole family, 4 kids, husband, and I got food poisoning from a restaurant. It was so bad we were all sleeping on the bathroom floors, one often on the toilet, another puking in a trash can. You get the horrid picture. I tried calling in and somehow talked to the director that night, but was reminded of what would happen. So all night we were sick. I got no sleep because when I wasn't puking, the kids were. Puke everywhere. And come the morning, to work I went. I proceeded to throw up in the nurse's station, attempting to pass meds and having to run out of the room into the bathroom. The charge nurse was like, "Why are you here?" I told her. She was ticked that I just didn't call in because now she had to find someone to come in and take my patients. God forbid she took over my patients until relief arrived. I couldn't leave until the relief nurse came to work. Took almost 2 hours. In the meantime, I had to do my job in between bathroom runs and throwing up in trash cans because I couldn't make it to the bathroom. Being sent home rather than calling off meant I didn't get a counseling though. Ended up being off a couple days. Oh, and my husband works nights the same floor. They didn't bat an eye when he called in for that night after having experienced my grossness. You would think of all places that would respect you staying home when you are sick, it would be a hospital job. You better come in even when you're sick unless you want to get a write-up to the place where people in vulnerable health go. How backwards can you be? Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy awesome stories of malicious compliance, why not hit that subscribe button down below? That said, our next story is, tell the dean what I've done? Sure. Another higher education IT story. I started my career in desktop support at a university in the mid-90s. I supported several academic departments and computer labs. This included providing access to the labs to adjunct faculty, especially for night courses. A new adjunct in the sociology department had requested access in the evening for a lab controlled by a teammate of mine. I passed the request on and just assumed that my colleague would handle it. She didn't. The next morning, I had a nasty voicemail from the chair of the department, Dr. Cranky Pants, because the adjunct couldn't get into the lab and the class wasn't able to meet. I totally understand this is a big deal. Classes, especially before Zoom, were difficult to make up, but this voicemail was a bit over the top. I had been warned about this new chair, Dr. Cranky Pants, and that he was a bit full of himself. Very stereotypical Ivy League educated PhD. I told my colleague of the mistake and even followed up with her the next day, the night of the next class. Next morning, I walk into our office to find 2 envelopes on my chair and a blinking voicemail light on my phone. I immediately knew something went wrong with the adjunct's lab access. Dr. Cranky Pants was livid. He was screaming on the voicemail. He threatened to scalp me and have me fired if I didn't fix the situation, and I was instructed to open the envelopes. Even in the 90s, I thought that term scalp was tactless, especially coming from a sociology professor. The first envelope contained a letter about how I was incompetent and couldn't do my job. He threatened to send the letter in the second envelope to my boss and the dean. As you guessed, the second letter had more of the same and came with the request to have me fired for being incompetent. I'll be honest, my stomach dropped. I didn't think for a second that I was going to lose my job. However, I felt horrible that the adjunct essentially had to cancel class for a week. Everyone I worked with knew I worked my butt off. I know I had nothing to fear, and my colleague would just get a slap on the wrist. You want to send this complaint to the dean? let's do it. One thing Dr. Cranky Pants didn't realize is that voicemails can be forwarded. I immediately forwarded it to my boss and handed him both letters. I told him I want nothing to do with Dr. Cranky Pants anymore if this is the way I was going to be treated. I asked him to send all of the info to the dean and take care of it. The dean was quickly informed. Dr. Cranky Pants was no longer to contact me, and I switched apartments with another colleague. I essentially fired him from my life. I would see him on campus occasionally and nod and smile to him. Years later, we both had kids around the same age playing t-ball together. I would smile to him and say, "Hey Cranky, I hope you're doing okay." I was being sincere but also laughing to myself, knowing I had gotten the better of him. I'm just glad that this is one of those situations where a boss, a manager, or whoever has these overseeing roles who were blowing up and acting really inappropriately were actually held responsible. I feel like most people who hire somebody like that try to look past it just to save face, if anything. Our next story is McDonald's Compliance. So once upon a time, I was a McDonald's employee. They always put me on the drive-thru because I was white and spoke fluent English. Yes, that's pertinent. Literally everyone was Hispanic, and only like 2 people besides me spoke fluent English. So I always winged it when greeting customers, and they always liked me. They'd ask about me when I was off, give me little gifts for brightening their day, etc. My manager came to me one day with a script and demanded I spoke from it. I repeatedly didn't use it, and eventually she got frustrated and threatened me with a write-up if I didn't read from it. Here comes the malicious compliance. There was a typo in the script that referred to McDonald's as McDonald's. So I'd repeatedly say it, and because everyone has a headset, they'd all hear it. And the staff would chuckle because most could read English and they all got the script. My manager was not amused. She told me that I needed to say McDonald's. And I reminded her that she demanded I read from the script exactly what it says. I got sent home that day and they cut my hours. I still feel like I won. Honestly, I'm impressed, mostly because OP was a very valuable worker in that situation, and it's not like it's a very prestigious job, and it's not like you were disrespecting them too bad. You would feel like McDonald's managers would still keep somebody like that around. They probably need the work. Just got showed up a little too much. This next story is, use the system-generated forms. So my job has an element in which we have to fill out a form that gets sent to the customer. Being vague because it's a government job and the form is actually a legal document, but that's not super important to the story. Anyway, I have a template of the form saved that I use on a regular basis. I recently got assigned to a new supervisor who reviewed one of my cases and told me my forms are out of date, and that I should use the form that our case management database generates. I told him that those forms often have incorrect information and come out formatted very inconsistently, and that I prefer to use a template. I asked if there was an updated template that I could use, and he said, "No, just use whatever the system generates because the system has to be correct." Please note that this man has not done an actual case of his own since we switched from paper files to digital. So I generated the form on the system and ended up with a PDF that included 3 copies of the form that had an address wrong, several dates wrong, lines through text where the text boxes didn't line up properly, an incorrect law cited, and several checkboxes checked that should not have been. I emailed it to him saying this was exactly what I got off the system. He didn't reply, but I checked the case database letter and saw that he'd signed off on the case with my original template version. I'm of the belief that if your workflow involves using forms or templates, and somebody's just been working with those things for quite a while, I would trust their input on how things should work above all else. When you spend the amount of time somebody like OP has with these forms or templates, you know all the quirks, you know all the oddities, you know all of the boxes that need to be filled out a specific way. If somebody's had a good flow going with these forms or templates, and they haven't been complaining, I don't see why you would want to try to change it up. That said, our final story of the day is, okay, I'll go back to my car and order online. Accidental malicious compliance. Settle in, I'm slightly pedantic and I can't help it. So I got nearly $32 in free Pizza Hut, but that's not the malicious compliance. I'm sharing this experience with you because they denied my request to put my free reward in a different pan, and the ingredients on top of each other in a different order. I had questions, but they turned around instead, telling me to go order it online. I complied. It's up to you to help me be malicious. I'm sharing with you exactly how to do it. Tonight, I went to Pizza Hut and I had some of the hut rewards to cash in. About 9x points, which qualified for free breadsticks or cheese sticks at 75-point redemption. I wanted a personal pan pizza, which is the exact same ingredients, but just in a round-shaped pan in a different order. Actually, less amount of the ingredients than I would get with the cheese sticks. Seems like a very reasonable request. So I decided to go into the restaurant and ask them if I redeemed the cheese sticks with my name online, could they instead make it a cheese personal pan pizza? I even said, it's less ingredients, you're just putting them in a different pan in a different order. They weren't busy, so I proposed this to the kid at the counter. He said, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, but let me ask my manager. Well, the manager said no. The item must be redeemed for the item that you chose. The kid followed up with, you have to redeem your points online, not here in the store. Yeah, I know, but I thought maybe he could make sure I was redeeming it properly. But he turned away and started to busy himself doing nothing. I went to my car. As I walked back to my car, I hit redeem on the hut rewards for the cheese sticks. Nothing pops up, no change on the page. I assumed it would go to the previous or a new page or something like that, so I hit redeem again. Nothing happened. Now thinking maybe I'm in a bad signal zone, which I've had in that area before, I hit redeem again. And then once more. Fearing I'm going to lose my redeemed points, I hit the back button. It takes me back to the main rewards page with all the options for redemption and locked rewards. My account balance of 90-something points is still there. Good, so I didn't lose them as I thought I would have. I see in my cart I have one item, so I clicked the card and proceeded with checkout. Do recall seeing cheese sticks repeated 4 times on the order page, I believe. I'm not certain, but I remember seeing something odd. I just didn't think anything of it because I don't really pay attention to those pages. I picked the contactless delivery because I didn't want to go into the store again. They had to bring it to my car. A different guy, the delivery guy, comes to my window and he's holding 4 boxes of food. And I was like, I just ordered 1. I think that's so weird because the person making the food was a person I spoke with earlier. He saw my point balance when I was making the request to him, and I figured he would know I didn't have the ability to get 4 free cheese stick orders, but he went ahead and made them anyways? He must have thought that was weird before he handed it off to that guy. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit that would be thinking that deeply about any of this. I was handed the receipt, and the delivery guy said, nope, the order says 4 orders of cheese sticks. Okay then. The receipt does say 4 orders of cheese sticks to the total of $31.96, but a coupon equals $31.96 and made a 0 balance. I checked my appointments and I have like 19 points available now. Those orders shouldn't have gone through. I didn't have enough points to get more than 1 item, and that was the lowest tier item. I believe that clicking on the redeem button those 4 times and then back and then to my cart without doing anything else, that there was a little glitch in the programming, allowing for that item, no matter how many times I press redeem, to be free. I don't have any more points to try this again, so for those of you with hut rewards, try and see if you can get multiple of the same items for free. I'm curious to know if it works for you. Maybe next time they'll wait to see if I had any more questions before shutting me out, or if they just could have placed the ingredients in a different pan and in a different order. It wouldn't have left me with a desire to go share with 3 million people how to get a crap ton of free Pizza Hut. All I know is if this little shortcut worked, I'd love to be the one to discover how to do that. I'm gonna bet this was some kind of very odd glitch with like some bad shoddy internet. Maybe it depends on the store's system being linked up to their website, or maybe this does work if you do it in the right timing. All I know is that's the kind of thing that if it does work in any form like that, Pizza Hut is looking to patch that ASAP. As far as the topping thing goes and personal pan pizza, I think the workers and the managers at Pizza Hut just probably aren't paid enough to really care. and it's probably very much against policy to give anything other than the free item, considering it is free. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.